Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to talk about the hot location in Marvel Snap right now. It is Project Pegasus, which just says you get +5 energy for this turn. So pretty crazy. A lot of the hot locations they've chosen have pretty crazy effects. Like they're not of like the super neutral ones. So I think this one's pretty cool, and there's some cool decks you can do, especially since essentially you can probably play 2 6-drops in one game pretty consistently, and you can kind of combo off those if you can kind of go into it. So we're going to talk about some good cards for both Pool 1 and Pool 2 for it, as well as some Pool 1 decks and the Pool 2 list that I'm running as well. So let's go into the card list here. So going through it, some Pool 1 cards to kind of talk about. One, Yatu, I think he's just good for this because sometimes you need to know when if you're getting Project Pegasus or not, just because you can kind of play around it. And so if you get this early and you need to see if you're getting it, I think it is worth it in that regard. We also have Jessica Jones, which I think is like probably one of the safer just cards in the deck in general. So if you know that you have a Project Pegasus is at this turn, you just plop this down, it becomes a 4/8, which is pretty solid for what it is. And if you play, like, if it doesn't show up in a match like this, I think it's fine as well. So it's kind of like a safe choice for if you see it or if you don't, in my opinion. Iron Man is fine. I still don't really know how I feel about this card in general, but if you plop this down pretty early and then you can start ramping it up, I think it's fine in that regard too. So solid card. And if you play it on any zone that has any kind of like boost for its inherent power, you just, it multiplies it too, which is really nice. Professor X is kind of like the meme card, but I really do like it in this, especially if we end up doing like an ongoing focus deck. So you can use this to lock down a location, and then if you have any ways to additionally boost up your location, if your opponent played into this one pretty hard, that's good. But obviously it's like a big like 50-50 of where is my opponent going to or not going to play their cards. And if you lock it down with Professor X, you can sometimes be in trouble, but sometimes you're in a good spot too. So that's something to consider there as well. American Chavez is really good in the sense of you can just have this as your turn 6 play. And again, I really do like this card for just the consistency it can add to your deck, because you will never draw it until the end of the game, right? So let's say if there's some cards that you really want to see in the first couple turns, if you put American Chavez into your deck, you will percentage-wise see them a little bit more often, just because you're pretty much running an 11-card list until that last turn. So I think that's helpful there. And then obviously you're just never going to have like bad hands. And we'll talk about it later for one of the decks, is that it just makes sure that you don't have a dead play on your last turn there. And then honestly, like Hulk is good. Like it's just a 12 drop or like 12 power for it. But if you don't have anything better to do and you just drop a Hulk, it's a lot of power. It's really, really fun, because normally like big cards with big power levels like this are not normally good. But in a game like this where 12 is a significant swing of power to your turn, it's fine. If you like Hulk, you want to play it, go for it. I don't think there's any kind of issue with that. Going into some Pool 2 cards as well. I think Ebony Man kind of makes sense too. He's a 1-drop and he has 7 power. So especially like if you can chain him with another one of like this 5 or 6 drops that you're planning to play on the big Project Pegasus turn, I think you can just almost guarantee that you win a location, which is cool. Especially like, again, if you use it with Professor X, for 6 you get 10 power, and then you lock down a location, and that's probably enough to win one location if your opponent's just playing 1 card as well. So I think that's solid. Shang-Chi is really nice in this build too, especially like if they're going to have something with 9 power or more pretty easily if they pop something really big down. So this is really good at sniping. I think in general any deck that you have should be playing Shang-Chi in this format right now, just because he's just a great like meta pick for that. Then we have Warpath. This one's just kind of interesting, but just the fact that, if any of your locations are empty, +4 power. So if you just plan on winning 2 locations by dropping a lot of big boys in those 2, this could be really good because it becomes a 4/9. So that's kind of good there. And then Vision, I still like Vision. He's really, really flexible at what he does in so many ways. And any just like thing with movement. And so if you want to go into like a really big movement heavy deck, you super can, because you can move this each turn. So if there's effects that depend on you moving stuff, like you can keep moving it and you get the benefits from it. So I think that's kind of a good idea there. And then the Infinaut, yeah, this you can just plop down super easy. And then if you already kind of like know, like turn 1, you know from Yatu that, oh, guess what, turn 2 is going to be Project Pegasus. You don't play anything turn 1, and then bam, you just plop down this, and then you probably just win that location outright unless your opponent super duper commits to it, which just means you're still winning it. So yeah, obviously just being able to put 20 power in something outright is, I think, super strong for a kind of format like this. So it is a little cheesy, but I think it's worth it, and if you want to try it out, I highly recommend it. So that is there. And sometimes like I just pass turn 5 and play this on turn 6, and it still just works out for this format too, which is interesting. So I've got 3 decks here. 2 of them are the same, just in a pool 1 and pool 2, and then one that kind of focuses on the Infinaut kind of stuff. So let's go into the pool 1. So it's just an ongoing list, just kind of the idea that you can get some really big ongoings out pretty easy and get the effects from there. So I do like, and it kind of goes around playing with Professor X here, where you want to use his effect, and then if your opponent does like win the location by a little bit, you could use some ongoing effects to kind of go through it. So we already talked about this. I think it's just a good card in the deck right now, just to guarantee or just see when you can expect a Project Pegasus or when you cannot expect it. Colossus, just it's a solid ongoing too. There's not a lot of low cost ongoing cards, but this becomes a 2/5 with the Spectrum, so I think it's fine. It's a 2/5, so good. Domino, this you almost always want to you just want to see this turn 2. You just want to have it guarantee a solid turn 2 play, because a lot of the time we might be just stuck with a bunch of high ends in our hands. So being able to get that, I think is good. Lizard is an ongoing as well, so it gets -3 power, but if you have it out and then you use Spectrum, you can get it back to a 2/4, which is again not too bad. Mr. Fantastic, being able to kind of warp the just give you power across a bunch of things, I think is helpful there, especially if you do, again, lock something down with Professor X, you can help boost your own power after that. We already talked about Jessica Jones. I think it's just a safe pick for a format like this. Namor, also pretty safe, has an ongoing as well, so you can use this to become a 12, essentially, which is nice. Iron Man, if you need it, just being able to double power at the locations are kind of cool. And then pretty much all of these cards are ongoing except for Yatu and Domino. So anytime you play your Spectrum, it would give everything +2 power, which could be helpful. And again, like Spectrum with Iron Man, just giving Iron Man itself power and being able to double it is, I think, very strong there. So that is the idea. If you also like running the 6-drop Onslaught, go for it. My only issue is that you have to be in the same location, and not all of these effects are really good for doubling, but it can happen. And then again, we're playing America Chavez on 6, just in case we need a turn 6 play, and just make it more likely to get the rest of our plays out there. So I really do like this card. Maybe I like it too much, but I think it helps for consistency issues there. So especially since we're going to have so many like chunky cards, having one less of our 6-drops just not exist in the deck, I think helps until turn 6 at least. And then upgrading it to pool 2, there's not a bunch of changes, but just a really big one is that you play Ebony Man. I think he's just a better version as a 1-drop here. So I think that helps out. We took out Jessica Jones just because Namor is pretty much the same thing, but it's also ongoing, so you get the extra boost there if you need it. And it just becomes a 4/10 essentially, and we're not playing a bunch of dudes anyways, so as long as we don't hit like New York Central Park, and we can get some squirrels and stuff, I think we're usually a pretty good spot here. So that is the ongoing list, and then we also have the Infinaut list that I've been playing as well. This one, I think I like this one more. It's a lot more reactive to or what our opponent does. It can be really kind of like anti-meta at the same time. So same kind of low end, just Yatu and Domino, just guaranteeing that we have something to do with our energy turn 2 if we don't see the Pegasus. Mr. Fantastic, just to help us with Namor and Professor X again, so if we need an extra boost. And it's just like one of the generically best 3-drops. I think it is. I think it's generically just the best 3-drop. Sometimes there's better ones, but for like a weird kind of not archetype like this, I think it's good there. Cosmo, also, just to stop on reveal abilities, because the only on reveals we have in this list are Shang-Chi and Jessica Jones. And Shang-Chi probably won't be interacting with anything anyways. And Jessica Jones, you didn't want to put it in where your Cosmo is probably most of the time anyway. So there really wasn't a 3-drop that I found that was really helpful for us. I don't think Killmonger really does anything. And Captain America, we don't have like a lot of big bodies. If you like Storm, you can do that. If you like Scarlet Witch, you can do that too. Or Rhino. I think those could be good in that list spot if you don't like Mr. Fantastic or Cosmo, but that's what I chose there. Enchantress, which is nice, being able to remove ongoing abilities, especially since there's a bunch of high-end ongoing cards like we saw in our past one. So if your opponent's playing a deck around that and they play them really early, you can play Enchantress to stun, remove those effects, which I think are nice, because I think a lot of people will probably be playing Blue Marvel as well, and just kind of some ongoing effects there. You talked about Jessica Jones, we talked about Namor and Professor X. Claw, I think is helpful too. Just again, if we lock down a location with Professor X, we have a way to upgrade it. So always Professor X, unless like the location tells you can, in the middle or right position, just to make sure that you can use Claw to do that. And obviously the best location is the right location too, is just because you can put Mr. Fantastic in the middle to just maximize your power there, because this becomes a 3/6 across 3 locations. And then America Chavez, again, just to make her deck 1 card smaller, and then the Infinaut as well. So you do want to, again, if you see where this location is with the Watcher, and you just plop you don't play a card on turn 1, because that's not losing a lot of your energy, and then you just play the Infinaut on turn 2 in whatever location. Again, you probably win that location. It is a little cheesy, and it's a little RNG. You're not going to do this every game, but when it works, you almost always just win the game. So I think that's super solid. So if you want to like snap on turn 1 when you see this combo, you can probably get a lot from it, because chances are I think you're going to beat your opponent with it. So, but that is going to be the video for us today. Let me know what builds you're running for this event, and if these videos mean anything for you. I know these events don't last very long, but I do want to get out some deck lists and some choices for anyone who's kind of interested in kind of playing and running them. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.